Darn. How's everyone doing tonight? Can everyone hear us now? Okay, fantastic. Welcome to round of 16, Dustygriff versus xPankraz. Game number 2, xPankraz with a 1-0 lead in going into this tonight. And I'm joined tonight on the mic by Morpheus. How we doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Vitasia. I appreciate it. Chat, I promise, if you could, listen, this would be the second time you'd have heard this, but it's okay. We're still going to hype this up because it deserves it. We have an amazing match this evening between Dustygriff, arguably the greatest to ever do it in free enterprise. All he does is win, win, win. And we have xPankraz, arguably the best to do it right now. An absolute clash of titans, folks that you could easily see in the finals of a tournament, meeting in the round of 16 for the chance to advance to the round of 8. So I am super excited for this very hype match, and absolutely a pleasure to be here with you, Vitasia, and having Esco doing the work on the back end, and also having Judge Joe pressing the buttons.
Absolutely. As you said, it's a clash of titans, something that you would see and expect to see in the finals, but we get it in the round of 16 because I tell you what, everyone in this free enterprise community has made such gains recently in terms of overall production and quality of speedrunning that everyone's just doing fantastic. So we can see these races in the round of 16 now.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. We have a Rosa start here. We have a couple objectives on the table that are going to require some different key items, but we'll get to that in just a second. We have Magus Sisters. We have the Darkness Crystal. We have a Cane. So you have a couple of different options here. That Cane can be Val Insurance, could be an early Zerker. The Darkness Crystal could open up everybody's favorite, the D-Machine Grind. A lot of different ways that our runners could go.
Absolutely. And when you take a look at the objectives that you have to do, there's only one that really requires that Darkness Crystal in terms of conquering the Vanilla Masamune altar. Everything else is locked behind other key objectives. So there's a lot of different options to go through here. And this might be, a seed that isn't going to be necessarily quick where we can go to the moon and call it good. This might take us a little bit of time.
Yeah, and this is also one where our runners may decide that they want to do that Masamune altar last and just swag walk to Zeromus afterwards. So that could definitely be part of the calculus that goes into this. We may see some very heavy earth plays as a result, where runners kind of fade the conventional wisdom of doing their objective because it's buried on the bottom of the moon. I know that historically Dustygriff is an earth first runner. Pankraz kind of does what the seed dictates and usually has an incredible read on things. So we shall see where our runners end up. Loot-wise, we are getting some variance out of the gate. Pankraz going to Eblin, Dusty going to Damsian. So far, Eblin not really paying out huge, just a vampire coming out, which is nice, but not really that great.
No, we found 2 of the trap chests right now, so hoping to find the last one, or really maybe dodging the last one if we could possibly avoid it. A cursed ring, that'll be at least nice to see, and Stardust, that'll make some things trivial, but that last chest for the monsters, so we know where all 3 of the trap chests are. So Pankraz, if he wants to, can sweep through and unlock everything that he could possibly get. Again, looking for some degree of loot that's nice. Otherwise, Dustygriff is going to show us our first free key item here, and it is just an elixir.
Yeah, so that elixir will get our runner started as far as healing is concerned. That cursed ring on Pankraz's side, that Stardust item, will definitely help him get going early and late in the run. But before we get too involved in a run, we do have a special shout out, Channel Point Redemption. So I guess this has to be read out. Inven wanted to shout out Denari. So well, what do we have here? I always wanted to play tag with you, Denari, but narwhals are always like, stab, you're it. Either way, just like Whitney Houston said, all gnarl ways love you. Okay, these puns have been taken too far. Check out Denari at twitch.tv/Denari.
That's a slow clap or just that genius right there.
I had to come up with those basically on the fly because Invent surprised us with that one, so I hope I did all right.
Meanwhile, Dusty ends up finding a nice little, cabins and exits that are located here in one of the item shops in Troya as well. Pankraz finishes his looting and is also going to go to Troya. Not a surprise given the free key item that's located here. But otherwise, yeah, not a ton of loot to really make that Eblin Castle really valuable at this point in time. It can have some great value, but unfortunately not for this one.
Yeah, there was a dancing dagger that Dustygriff has. Pankraz, I think, picked one up also. Dancing dagger is phenomenal for that cane early on. It'll do somewhere between 200 and 400 damage. It does count as magic damage, so certain bosses can resist it, but overall not too shabby. Dustygriff also was able to find cabins, life potions, and also very conveniently for this party potentially, exits. Exits are very important on this flag set because 2 of your primary exit casters are removed from the character pool. There is no Fusoya, there is no Cecil. So you are left with a post-Zot Rosa, Porum, or Tella as your only exit casters. So picking up an exit item or 2 can be incredibly helpful. We also see Pankraz picking up a mute knife on his side, which could be really nice for either that cane or an edge.
Now, it is worth noting that complete the Tower of Zot is a required objective. So we have our Rosa already in the party. So as soon as we complete that objective, I sincerely doubt we're going to be ditching that Rosa anytime in the near future. And once we complete that, Rosa will have it. So you're right in that we'll probably want to get a couple of those exit items. But then we have Rosa. We saw it on Mount Hobbs there. It's the alt gauntlet, so regardless of what character is on there, not worth the time investment to go up onto the moon.
Yeah, I think if it were Edge up there, you would take that gauntlet because Edge can just flame everything down. But that's a tough sell right now. Maybe if you had a flame spear for Kane, you'd be able to get through that quickly. Maybe Cure 2 from Rosa can get you through that, but that's a tough sell this early. If there's a Tella on the moon, for example, then we have a totally different story here. But looks like Pankraz wants that Palom. This may be because of the moon axis being available. He may want to get a little frisky on the moon, try to pick up Quake on the kid, and really get the party started, whereas Dusty's going to say no to the kid, at least for now.
You know, if I had a Flame Spear or Blizzard Spear or some other item to allow me to sweep through the objective, the alt gauntlet right now, I think this might be a little bit more palatable. Otherwise, this is going to drag on quite a bit. So, I like the play if you're confident in what you want to do with Pankraz, but it does signify a significant investment in this power.
Yeah, and we see a little bit of the anger wiggle from Pankraz. He's like, I'm here fighting for this Palom. I want this Palom. I'm second guessing myself by taking this Palom, but I'm here. It's a nice little thing that he does with the frustration wiggle, the anger wiggle. Palom also being removed from combat here by the beak actually landing means the kid is not going to get XP now. That is quite detrimental.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Dustygriff showing us an Edge is on the moon. That's a character that's worth picking up, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the guy in this bracket stage early on. That is going to make this gauntlet a lot easier, as we kind of said. So that's early advantage. Now, obviously, we are about 7 minutes into what is going to be probably 90 minutes, or maybe even more between these two runners. But that is an early advantage to Dusty, taking this moon check. Being able to pick up that edge, really going to send him kind of into orbit, if you will.
Now, we've not found a ton of good equipment for anyone at this point in time. We've done very minimum looting so far, as both of these runners are probably planning on doing minimal looting until we get access to some some higher tiered locations. We are, the flags that we have, certainly incentivize certain locations that are locked at this point in time, and incentivize doing minimal looting if we can possibly avoid it right now. But Edge with that early ninja spell means never having to say you're sorry, right?
Yeah, basically. Edge is going to be great here. This party is really coming together. Honestly, Palom, Rosa, Edge, and an Anchor is my preferred party on this flag set. So I can definitely see our runners being very happy with the character selection early on. It looks like we're also going to be getting on Dustygriff's side, Edge in the middle for overworld anchoring. It'll be nice and quick. And that's going to be a middle sword dancing dagger Edge, which is honestly good enough.
Yeah, he can do some heavy lifting that you need to. Pankraz is doing just minimal looting. Dustygriff only opening a handful of chests as he's getting through here. But we will have the Antlion cave. This is our first kind of locked key item location. Well, not locked, but first time we actually have to fight a boss to get to a key item. And we're rewarded with a relatively free boss that we don't necessarily want to see here in the Baron Guards.
This will be fine if Pankraz has that mute knife. These are mage type enemies. Unfortunately, I think Kayn came up like 20 damage shy of killing that guard, maybe even less than that. Looks like a dancing dagger though, so I think that mute knife would have gotten him there on that jump. But Kayn, as always, betraying, in this case, Pankraz, but usually the party as a whole. And Dusty is through first by virtue of having that edge. Boom, boom, there we go.
Interesting that Dusty was the first one to kill the boss, but Pankraz was the first one to get the samurai bow because he's already gotten some levels, so didn't have to go through that. This is how close and tight this race is going to be. Honestly, probably through this entire race. That's how skilled both of these runners are.
Now, it is a little interesting that neither of our runners reset out of that samurai bow. I wonder if that is a byproduct of needing money and the samurai bow selling for a decent amount. I don't think we're going to see Rosa hitting things with the power, at least on Dusty's side. Maybe on Pankraz's side, but I think we're going to be pretty clean, not having Rosa do too much in the way of work other than healing.
I tend to agree. It's also one of those instances where, especially with Antlion Cave, it's almost automatic. Like it's part of that early game routing that we're just so accustomed to doing and completing and just getting it out of the way that the concept of resetting out of that fanfare music uh, is almost foreign to, I would say, 99% of the runners who are in the community. For both of these runners, though, we know it's a conscious decision.
Yeah, they are keeping that either for money or for Rosa being able to hit things one way or the other. It's going to work out. Looks like we just have an Octoman slightly displaced from the waterfall, and that is going to be Dustygriff's next opponent here in Fabul. Pankraz about to get the news once he makes it up to the moon that there is an edge there, and probably going to be doing some more anger wiggling as you see him mock run buffering in battle once he sees that there is that edge up on the moon. Likely going to be like, dang, I wish I would have had this before, going to Mount Hops.
And that's something that can affect runners when they realize that, if I would have just flipped these two around. You can't let it necessarily impact you early on in the race because there's downstream effects to that emotional state as you continue going through this race. So Pankraz is absolutely a pro. He will take it in stride. We've seen some anger wiggles, but he'll continue running a very, very quality race from this moment on.
And we do see a hook coming from Fabul, so not necessarily required, but that is likely our logical access to the Underworld. This also presents an extra character check. Now, we don't know yet who is in Baron, so that gives us Baron in as far as a check. and it gives us the hook route as far as a check. So 6 total characters that are going to be on the table for our runners before even having to think about going underground, which honestly is quite reasonable. And
Absolutely, and it does look like Dusty is immediately going to be turning this in. I really like this play, in large part because not only is it another character check, but Eblin Cave is a fantastic looting opportunity, and we haven't seen Dusty do very much looting outside of that the castle over there in Dancy.
And we see on Pankraz's side, he is going for what is known as a reaction grind. Also, before we discuss the reaction grind, my goodness, that shop, Bacchus wines, coffins, and silk webs. Whew, that's a shop, y'all. Back to the yeah, back to this reaction grind though. So what Pankraz is looking for here is the bomb enemy. It is the single gray bomb that when it is hit but not killed by a lightning spell, in this case a lit 1, it will cast reaction, and that will cause it to basically kill off every other enemy in the formation. There's a formation with 4 enemies, I think it's 2 bombs and 2 balloons, and a formation with 5 enemies, I think it's 1 bomb, 2 hair dryers, and 2 other assorted enemies. Unfortunately, Pankraz has found reaction fights twice, and they have both been back attacks where he cannot get the lit 1 off. Now, the circumstances to even set this up are that he has a cursed ring, and he has a relative agility 1 Pala, so he is able to actually set this up and be able to make it happen to even get that encounter. It looks like he may have said, this is not working out though, I'm spending too much time doing this, I'm out. And Dustygriff, meanwhile, finds a Tella on the hook route. That is a potential very early D-Machine grind if Dustygriff wants it.
Absolutely. Another bit of important information. Those were the Kaipo guards that are at the Rubicante spot. So not exactly a world beater blocking your entrance into the Underworld. So not overly concerned about levels to get you there if you want to make an early dive trying to get into the Underworld as well. So some interesting decisions are here on Dustygriff's sides if he wants to go or if he was going to continue.
And he knows that coffins are for sale as well in this Cave Eblin shop. So that is absolutely impetus to just kind of dive where you might not need a grind ahead of time. Now, interestingly enough, what we see in Baron Inn, that's Iridia. So we now know there's a Tella available for a grind. There's a Palom, a Iridia, a Rosa. You could swap out of Tella for a Kane as Val insurance if needed. Basically anything our runners want to do grind-wise or party composition-wise is on the table here. So there are going to be some very key decision tree moments made throughout this seed based on party comp and grind.
Yeah, it's kind of, it feels almost too generous for an early party. You know, we're not seeing the Edwards, the Porums, or the overly weak party members in this early part. I feel a little spoiled for these two runners right now because they have their decision about lots of fantastic different party comps right now.
Yeah, we see a pickup of 2 Bacchus, 2 Coffin, 2 Silkweb on Dusty's side. We'll see what he opts to do, and he says, nope, I am out of here, at least for now. And he is going to probably clear out the rest of the overworld and maybe consider doing a grind.
Well, I think the obvious thing for Dusty to do right now is get that Tella online. If that's going to be the decision, it's like, I have the Tella, I need to make him not entirely worthless. And that means going up here to Mount Ordeals and clearing out, you know, something that a lot of runners have tried to skip here. There's 3 bosses and 1 key item. So there's an option to try to skip Mount Ordeals if you can, but getting Tella online is just too big of an incentive, honestly, if you're trying to do something like a D-Machine grind, for example.
Yeah, I think it's not even just getting Tella online, but also the fact that Just quite simply, it is what is considered a sphere zero check, meaning it is open on the overworld with no key items required to get to it. So it is very dangerous to leave sphere zero checks unchecked. You run the risk of, in this case, a hook route, even if it might be an easy hook route. This could have the magma key. And I don't want to say our runners would feel foolish, but they wouldn't feel great if they left a magma key on the table.
Meanwhile, we do have a Pale Dim to start out with. This is not a bad boss, actually. I don't mind seeing Pale Dim here personally.
Yeah, Pale Dim is fine. You just don't want to use Elemental Claws on it. Every time it's also physically attacked with the fight command, it will respond with a slow cast. So using Dart, using Aim, using Jump, basically this entire party is going to be very well equipped for this from Dustygriff's side, and Pankraz is alike. He doesn't quite have Virus on Palom yet, but is still going to have the capabilities with the rest of the party members.
Right, so the difference right now, Dusty has picked up his Tella in Eblan Cave. Meanwhile, xPankraz is rolling with this Palom. So far, I like having a Palom over a Tella, although Tella does allow you to do some extra fun things a little bit later. We have a second Sparkle with Ogo Pogo, another Doom Noodle over here.
Yeah, and this may be a telegraph move from Dusty. Pankraz and Dusty are both phenomenal runners, but I think the consensus is that Pankraz is right now the best runner in the game. He's just the most consistent. I do wonder if we're just going to straight up see Dustygriff go do a D machine grind, get his levels, and blow up everything he possibly can, and try to leverage an advantage that he knows his opponent may not do. Pankraz loves to push through fights with whatever party he has, and normally can get away with it. And if you can take power overwhelming against him, he would possibly be able to be caught and surpassed. So levels are a cure for many things. And I do wonder if we will see Dusty do that and just decide, hey, I've made it to this Mount Ordeals, I've got my setup that I want, I'll run these Zerkers, and I'll go.
And let's face it, it's not like he would be in a poor position with his party or anything. Rosa, Edge, and Kane, absolutely end game viable party at that point in time.
Yeah.
And this is our first scoop of vanilla for the night, with Dark Knight Cecil just hanging out.
Yeah, Dark Knight Cecil doing Dark Knight Cecil things, giving away a Dragoon armor, so no double vanilla. But both runners keeping the Dragoon armor, both runners keeping the telespells, would lead me to indicate that they both value what the old man can do for the team, even from a potential anchor perspective. On Dusty's side, it's a much more clear path of the benefits of a Tella right now. Pankraz doesn't know about that Tella yet, but I doubt he'll be sad to see him. And probably based on the lack of weaponry for the Kane, we most likely see the Tella get picked up on Pankraz's side as well. Additionally, we do have a cursed ring on Pankraz's side that we don't on Dusty's. So while there is a slight advantage right now, I think, for Dusty as far as what's been seen and the amount of information he's been able to gather, Pankraz, by virtue of the cursed ring and having better turn parity, may still be able to do some things even without a grind. And, we're going to see a lot of how this seed's going to play out in the next 60 seconds or so.
So the question is, what does Dusty do from here? Does he go... Yeah, it looks like he's going to go to Baron Inn and at least do this particular check, which, based on what Pankraz has already done, is a tower key at this point in time. Not something that is going to be beneficial to us, at least right at the moment. But after that, I want to know what Dusty ends up doing, because I tend to agree with you. I think it would behoove Dusty best to do that D-Machine grind at this point in time, leverage those levels, because I think you mentioned it before in the pre-race commentary. Pankraz is not someone who likes to do the early grind. He likes to rely on his in-game knowledge to be able to kind of leverage himself at that point in time to get through bosses that otherwise most runners aren't able to get through. So he eschews the early grind when he can. So I really want to see Dusty do that early grind to see a contrast in styles right now, just from an entertainment value perspective.
Yeah, Divergence is fun. It makes for a great watch, and then to have people converge, especially at the end, where you know have like dueling Zeromus fights, dueling final bosses. I hope we get to see something like that, but I would love to see some Divergence in the interim. Dusty has been more thorough in his checks to this point. Pankraz has been a little bit faster as he will be getting his hook a little bit before Dusty will be getting his tower key. But, you know, Pankraz is up that Palom, Dusty is up that hook dive. Pankraz probably saying, I'm just going to clear everything on the blue planet and then go dive that hook and pick up who's ever there. Whereas Dusty wanted that character from the hook dive and a little bit of looting and a little information along the way.
All right, in the meantime, Pankraz on his way out of Fabul. I think he's about out of locations at this point. We'll have to be turning in this hook almost immediately. Dusty does pick up his tower key, so the next couple minutes is going to determine a lot of what happens in this particular race, folks.
Yeah, we have Pankraz going to raise the hoverboat while Dustygriff gets his tower key. So runners are basically neck and neck as far as their progression. Says no to Rydia and hasn't shown a desire to go back to that Palom. So Dustygriff may just be in Zoom Zoom, let me go with my Zerker team. And it looks like that's the case as he is headed straight back over to the hook route. So no grind here. Which means by virtue of those coffins, he's probably hoping to just get through the hook route with the coffins on the Kaipo guard, see something not too rude on the King Queen Eblin spot, and kind of carry on from there. Whereas Pankraz doesn't have knowledge of that yet, so we'll see what he does in the way of shopping, if he has funds to shop for those coffins. So if we don't see any picked up, that is a potential advantage to Dustygriff.
Oh, and absolutely doing a little bit of looting and says, "Oh, I stopped himself a little bit." At least picked up one coffin though, so that's something nice on Pankraz's side. He won't be completely empty. Dusty does have more coffins, but you only need one for the Kaipo guards.
Yeah, it's a situation where Dustygriff is going to be a little bit ahead here. Has some extra coffins, has a little bit of extra loot, but noticeably is going to be down a cursed ring. So that's going to be a potentially determining factor on this King Queen Eblin fight, which I want to say has somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 35 agility. It's quite fast and it hits really heckin' hard. So I do wonder if Dusty's going to have the right situation and the right setup to get through it, while Pankraz is going to have that curse ring and be able to just kind of, manhandle anything that's in his way. It'll be very interesting to see how this progresses, but we are getting a little resistance here from these Stalemen, kind of being rude as they almost always are.
You have one-shotting Rosa there, unfortunately, but being very valiant and at least taking the fight. One Staleman down.
Yeah, one down, Palom down. Not the best situation right now for Pankraz, but hopefully he can still get through it. While Dustygriff does load up his Zerkers in the front row, and this is great news. This is a completely free hook route. I mean, this Water Hag's going to punch, and the things it punches are going to die. But I think Dusty will have just enough actions to get through this, while Pankraz is dangerously close to a wipe here now on these Stalemen. Really needs to kill and just gets through by the skin of his teeth on the Staleman chest, and he is going to be rewarded with an elixir. which is not the best because our runners already have one, but it's going to be good enough to get him through that fight and not have to take a nasty reset.
And not at all what you necessarily wanted to see there. Wanted to, hoping for some very good loot, but uh, I'll take an elixir. That can be clutch, at certain points in time. Meanwhile, Dustygriff gets through that water hag fight that came in close. Now with those Kaipo guards, though.
Yeah, and this is just going to be one coffin on the back guard. And I wonder if he bought enough coffins to coffin all of them just for time. He landed on exactly 4. It looks like he's going for a life glitch as well. I wonder if we'll see maybe a stone cast here from Tella. A lot of different things that we could go with. It looks like we are getting the coffins on the individual soldiers for time as well.
I actually really like it, not just for time, but also using the life glitch for that. We're not comfortable with levels, obviously. You have to do some grind at some point in time to be able to get some levels. And at this point in time, this is as good of a source of experience as anything. You have to do it already. Why not throw a life potion here?
Yeah, and this is going to pull somewhere around like 46k for Dusty, because normally it's 25,000. The bulk is on the officer. So I think this is going to be a quite considerable amount of XP coming out of here. Somewhere in the high 40,000s, which is huge for Dustygriff. Yeah, 45,400. That's a number this early on. That's a lot of XP. That's Blink and Berserk on Rosa, which is huge, and a bunch of levels for Kayn.
So Dusty at just under 30 minutes, first to access the underground. Really a fantastic time when you think about already clearing out everything that's accessible to us in the overworld, plus a detour moon visit to pick up a character. That's a phenomenal time getting into the underworld, and Pankraz right on his tail.
Yeah, I mean, both runners, again, experts of the game. Dustygriff just showing off a little bit of, honestly, what that Fate of Hobbs was able to do for him in getting that ninja quicker. That was the ability to just plow through things faster. Pankraz will be hot on his heels, but Dustygriff also showed us at the top of tower a Leviathan. The magic stat there is, I'm going to be generous and say non-existent, so that is not a scary fight. Dustygriff also has a Thunderclaw, I believe, so if you go Thunderclaw plus another weapon on edge, you can tear through that Leviathan. And Dusty says, let me go do this now. He's going to go get that Leviathan taken care of, has the tower key, get the proper airship as well, and maybe even steal some sirens along the way. There's a lot of stuff you can do here, but I really like this play from Dusty.
As do I. Some of the things that's been kind of turned on its head in this Adamant Cup tournament, because there's 7 objectives and having to do them all. It has been less about doing your freebies as soon as you possibly can, and more about doing your objectives in as efficient order as possible. In this case, doing the tower objectives when we can do both the tower key and the top of the tower at the same time ends up being more beneficial than doing something, going off to do the Fey March kind of on its own, out of the way before we have the levels to do either the King and Queen of Ebland or any other reason to go off in that direction. And that's something that this tournament has really highlighted, I think, with its particular blend of objectives, just doing everything as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where the normal mantra of do your objectives, do your freebies is not necessarily the optimal way through a seed anymore. It certainly used to be when you were doing things like 3 of 4 or 4 of 5 objectives, or just doing 4 total objectives, or just searching for a crystal, whatever it may be. But things like the Vanilla Masamune altar, our runners have access to that and have had access to it for, 20 minutes. They're not going there anytime soon. Yes, it's an objective. There is no impetus, no reason whatsoever to go and tackle that fight. So you're seeing runners fading objectives willingly to go do other things that can generate more key items and more potential progression value.
Absolutely. So we have Our Leviathan fight about to start as Pankraz does finish off about 3 minutes behind Dustygriff at this point in time. That 3 minutes is pretty much at this point in time just the alt gauntlet fight up on Mount Hobbs for that Porum. Palom, sorry. Not Porum, Palom.
Yeah, it's basically that difference of that decision to go with the Palom, which ultimately Palom probably presents a better option than Kane because of the top end, strength that he offers, especially with that nuke spell. But if you're able to just press on through with Zerkers and get through everything, that's going to be fine. I do wonder if from Pankraz, seeing that Leviathan, we see maybe a couple Sirens get stolen and then grind up to lit 3 on the kid. It's only probably 4 Sirens away. So, on those yellow dragon eggs, I do wonder if that might be a play that he makes, having the edge available to steal Sirens.
Well, and we mentioned it earlier, Pankraz tends to avoid those early grinds, and yeah, he's avoiding it and certainly not picking up any treasure chests. Oh, hey, there's a Thunderclaw right there in case you were missing one on your way up.
Pretty funny. That is the PK chest, and it has a Thunderclaw, which is PK's favorite item in the game. So that's a thing that just happened, and I think that's pretty cool. We also see Pankraz leaving a save here. So I think this is actually going to be a shot at Leviathan, and if it comes up empty, he's going to reset out of the XP here. It's 26,000 XP, but if he doesn't care about the XP, he doesn't care about the XP. But that's, to me, why you would save there, or maybe he just wants to be safe after some of the trials and tribulations some other runners in the community have had in the past week.
I mean, there's been some rough races here and there. I mean, a random errant wyvern can certainly wreck a party, especially one that's underleveled. I think I've seen chat refer to this as Wave Tower between Kenyatzo and a Leviathan here. My goodness.
Yeah, and Dusty is through that Leviathan, though, so Pankraz through Kainatsu, the pass from Leviathan, there will be no resetting out of that. Rosa gets the kill shot for, 300 damage, while Edge had done about 20,000 of the however much health is there. But Dusty is done with this tower, and I am very interested to see what the key item that comes out of the super cannon check turns out to be. Also curious to see if either runner stops to sneak any Sirens, or if they decide to come back after doing some Underworld shopping, where Sirens are more likely to be anyway.
I mean, I know what I would do. I'm a coward. So anytime that I have Edge and I'm in this tower, I'm opening these chests anyway because A, I like good gear, and B, I don't trust Sirens to be necessarily available. I probably would have checked the other shops before coming in here also, but these runners are certainly confident in their ability to get through here even if there's no Sirens. So I imagine Dusty is not checking any of these quite yet, but if he needs to, it's available at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from Dusty, barring this being exactly a pan, we'll probably see him go to the Fame Arch next, I would have to imagine, and head down there for the free key item. There's the Adamant Rock. Now, going back to our objectives, we have Liberate Baron Castle, burn the Village Mist, conquer the Vanilla Masamune Altar, return the Pan, complete the Tower Azat, defeat the Queen of the Town of Monsters, which is the Asura spot, and the Pink Tail. So that Adamant Rock is nothing but an extra count towards 10 key items. So the tower, not required, but having a pass negates some of the time loss. The Adamant Rock does help get you to 10 key items, but really not what our runners want. What they do want, though, there's those Sirens, and those are really nice to see. I think Dusty bought Star Veils, not Sirens, though. So yeah, looks like he picked up 4 more Star Veils. Not sure if that was intentional or not, because that seems like a fair bit of Star Veils to have now.
Yeah, I don't know. He's also doing some extra looting that we don't always see, per se. But finishing shopping out here, ooh, ninja hats available. in Dwarf Castle. That's a really nice agility item to, depending on what your agility situation is, to be able to pick that up and help out your party. But we see an evil wall here, immediately diving in and saying, I'm not worried. We're going to go do these bosses here.
Yeah. This fight stinks. Evil Wall is absurdly punchy here and cheats the ATB system. And if your edge is not in the middle, you're making Evil Wall faster. This is a dangerous fight, even with the power level that our runners have. This is going to be a hard-hitting son of a gun here.
Oof. Knocked about half the wind out of Edge right away. But we do have Rosa and Tella, who can cast, both of them can cast Blink on our party, so can at least get through the punchiness. It's just a matter of if we have the damage output to be able to survive it at this point.
Yeah, there's only 9,000 or 8,600 health here, something like that. It's not too egregious on the health side. It's just in the vanilla game, it's all split up amongst all the dolls, so it's a lot easier to deal with. Whereas now it's all pooled into one, and in this case, one very aggressive enemy. That Evil Wall really has its eyes set on Edge here as well. Thankfully for Dusty, the Evil Wall is hitting everyone who he has blinked up. So making it quite a bit nicer than just going after the unblinked folks. It could be pretty dangerous, but Dusty making good work of this Evil Wall should be out of here in 1 or 2 hits.
Meanwhile, Pankraz looks to be doing something very similar, going to be checking the shops and at least double checking Dwarf Castle. We'll try to figure out if Pankraz is also going to take out the bosses or is just checking the shops, but Dusty is through the Evil Wall boss.
Yeah, one thing I know that Pankraz also likes to do is he likes to do 3 sirens, in particular as his kind of magic number, and that will be his entire grind for the game, other than doing lunar bosses. He does say Evil Wall, no thank you, I'm out. But Dusty was able to get through and is rewarded with a Mylon Zed. This is weak to flying, and Dusty does have a boomerang, so going to take advantage of that air weakness. While Pankraz does head back in with just getting things set up. So Dusty will be our first runner through Dwarf, and we will see what key item, if any, pops out of here.
Worth noting, I think Pankraz has a full moon as opposed to just a boomerang for his edge. So Pankraz's edge is going to be a little bit punchier, not having to spend the time to re-equip for this as round 2. But Dusty is through.
Yeah, going to get through this pretty easily, I think, on Pankraz's side, barring, well, exactly that happening. The Quack Kid getting bopped repeatedly. Maybe relying on, looks like Edge here. So he couldn't berserk his Edge, doing a little anger wiggling, because he had left a Thunderclaw on instead of the second good weapon. So having to delay the damage output a little bit. So another frustration wiggle from Pankraz, but he'll be able to get through this. And Dusty is showing us that the key item from Luca today is going to be another Dragoon armor. So no shortage of sellables for our runners coming from these key item checks.
From here, it feels like, we have to go to Feymarch. We know where all the big key item or big J items are in the shops in terms of the sirens and the silk webs and life potions at this point. Maybe you're hoping for some hourglasses, but also at this point in time, all of the bosses that could be impacted by it are necessarily gone at this point. So not really looking for too many hourglasses even at the same time while we're going through here. So now it's just a matter of, okay, well, what's our free item? What boss is down here? What do I have to prep to grind for?
Yeah, and it may be a situation where Dusty has enough strength, or Pankraz as well when he gets down there, that either one of them may be able to just simply take out the Queen Spot boss or the King Spot boss. It's not out of the question for the runners to be strong enough to do that. We do see Dusty still doing some looting here. This may be predicated on the fact that he's kind of fresh out of money again. So maybe looking to pick up some extra items here, or maybe just looting some things to be able to afford maybe some potential sirens in Dwarf Castle. Ooh, and that is a rat tail.
Not a required item necessarily, but absolutely. Hang on, is that second scoop of vanilla that we have for the day?
There is. Vanilla begets vanilla.
All right. Well, here we are. 2 scoops of vanilla so far for this particular seed. And Dustygriff going to be showing us directly, not even safety saving, what's going to be down here in terms of our bosses. And
that
it's
is
a young.
No.
That's kind of a punchy punch mage there, isn't it?
So both of those fights are air quotes doable. Both of them are going to take time. I don't know that our runners want to invest that amount of time into it yet. Karate Man, all he does is punch and kick. You can get through, but the damage is a little anemic. So yeah, Dusty says, I'm out of here, no more. I'll be back. Pankraz, on the other hand, bought a couple of sirens, so he may be saying, let me ramp up a little bit, and when I go down to the Fey March, let me take out what's down there. Could be a major point of divergence here. We also see Dusty heading back up, going to be turning in this rat tail, but did we see him set up Sheila 1?
Not even remotely. Sheila has not been touched yet. I think the concept is turning this rat tail. If it's the pan, then you're not double dipping.
Yeah, well, we'll see what this rat tail ends up giving. It looks like Dusty going the north route as well. I wonder if he'll be shopping in Silvera as a result. Looks like at least not before turning the rat tail in. But we shall see what this rat tail turns into on Dusty's side, and it is a Baron key, so it is required. And I would fully expect Dusty at this point to just chase that.
Absolutely. At the bare minimum, we're doing our objectives. It's the kind of the next logical step that is not overly difficult. Everything else that we have to do, that we can possibly do, is a little bit outside of our level range without any dedicated grinding. Not that Dustygriff or xPankraz are not capable of doing it, but you're not necessarily feeling safe at these levels if you're having to do Luca Cave, for example.
Yeah, Luca Cave, the Fey March, things like that, not exactly what you want to be kind of messing with right now. The parties are good enough to do it, but again, it's the efficiency thing that you talked about. This is kind of the opposite side of the coin there, where we're not looking at the efficiency of checks, but the efficiency of battle. And it's the age-old can I versus should I. Yes, you can absolutely get through those fights. Should you? Probably not.
So, in the words of the immortal Dr. Ian Malcolm, your doctors thought were too busy thinking whether or not they could. They never stopped and thought whether or not they should.
Exactly.
Jurassic Park quote for every days, everyone. Woo!
It's been too dang long since I've seen Jurassic Park. The only things I remember from it are being afraid of porta potties and dinosaurs.
You know what? I think that's fair, result of watching those movies. Yeah, that's fair.
But we do see here, we get some looting on Pankraz's side. I think he's trying to find some trap chests here. And coming up absolutely empty. Trying to take advantage of that RA1 Quake Palom. Finally hits some monsters. 6 ghosts. Uh-oh.
That wasn't RA1 Palom.
That's not RA1 anymore. Rosa did not have the cursed ring on, so... Whoopsie! He'll go pick up all the rest of that loot. But yeah, that's not the best, as we see Dustygriff going through and going to take out these Magus Sisters as well. Not going to be too much trouble here.
There's some fantastic loot that Pankraz is picking up here, though. This is fantastic.
It's money. The Drain Spear is good. You can either turn Kayn into an anchor with that, or you can, dart it, or you can sell it. There's a lot of different things you can do. But this is a potential grind for Pankraz while walking down somewhere he has to anyway, as well as a chance of picking up items. I think there's like a 3% chance of adamant armors in the Sylph Cave. So you do enough of these over time and you might find one. Or just, some good old classic Hanzo steel. That's going to make Pankraz feel a little bit better about that wipe that he took due to not having the Curse Ring on Rosa. Hanzo is going to do a lot of work for this party.
Absolutely. And we're only 48 minutes in. We still have, at least a dozen bosses that we're going to have to fight that Pankraz is going to be able to leverage between a full moon and a Masamune. Yup. He's going to be able to do a whole lot of work that Dustygriff's Edge is not going to be able to do.
Yeah, I do like Pankraz's party setup better for the long run. Having access to the black magic from Palom, having access to Rosa as your white mage, and having access to Edge as your primary berserker. I don't know if Kayn is long for that party. If maybe someone else gets picked up in his stead, maybe, I don't know, Iridia, a second Palom, a second Edge, any number of things that could be picked up. But I don't know about Kayn's long-term prospects on this team, but it's one of those situations where you're definitely going to be leveraging that Palom, that Rosa, and that Edge for certain. And we see a large number of Bacchus being picked up. That is saying, I don't much need to do a big grind here. We're just going to go ahead and let Edge hit things.
Now, one thing that I think is worth discussing is the fact that, and this is, I think, more a testament to Dustygriff than anything. He does not find himself down 1-0 in very many tournament situations where it's win or go home. How do you think being down 1-0 is impacting him? Do you think, is it impacting his routing, his judgment? Is he planning on doing anything different? Again, it's not a position that he finds himself in a whole lot. So I honestly wonder if you would have any input on this about, how does that impact your mentality, your routing, and your decision making going through this?
I think when you are at relatively the top of the game, which both of these runners are, and please make sure to go check both of them out. They're fantastic runners.
Absolutely, yeah.
Dusty been streaming a lot for the tournament. Pankraz a little bit less, but still doing his thing when he can. Check them both out as we get to check out a life staff coming from that Baron Castle Liberation in the pot in the bottom there. But when you have runners at the top of their game, they're there for a reason. And that reason is that their play style works. What they do gets the job done. And so in Dustygriff's case, I think if you start to deviate too much from your normal routing and your normal gameplay, you get yourself into more trouble than you end up getting a potential advantage. Dusty, maybe he's a couple minutes behind Pankraz on a 28 out of 28, meaning checking everything. I don't think you change up your entire gameplay. I think you just go ahead and you try to play cleaner. Maybe you fade one thing, maybe you make one gamble. But I don't think you upset the entire apple cart that has made you literally one of the best in the game for years now. I think that would be a very foolish perspective to have. It's fine to think that you're an underdog. I think it's not fine to completely throw away what you've been great at for years.
I mean, that's a fair perspective. I'm right there with you. Dusty has been, as you said, among the best of the best. Dustygriff, meanwhile, showing us, hey, Goldbez, how are you, buddy?
Yep, and immediately saw that he was going to have an issue with this fight. knew that he wasn't going to be able to get a Venom cast off, knew that he would have to take a 50-50 here at best. So deciding, let me just go in sized, and we'll make sure that everybody is able to not be paralyzed. One of the nice things about the status priority that, both of these runners are going to know is that they're going to be able to get through this fight by taking advantage of that knowledge. Now, on Pankraz's side, one of the advantages he may have for this fight being that first ring, Impalement slot 2, he may be able to fire a Venom off and buffer that out without having to reset. And so he may be able to save somewhere in the neighborhood of about 26 to 30 seconds on a walk down there, which is not insignificant in a match of, this level.
Yep, absolutely. Meanwhile, Pankraz gets through, of course, nice quake. Dustygriff does get 1-star Veil off, so now it's just going to let Goldbez effectively reflect spells off of him until he wins at this point in time, doing quite a bit of damage and enjoying the win right there, but it is going to take a little bit of time. I think you're right. It's really going to come down to how quickly, and that Y after the 1 HP punch.
Why did you let me hit myself until I fell over and had a bad day? Well, because. But we do see a crystal armor coming out from that Goldbez, and Dusty says, do I want the money? No, I'm going to reset. And so that Goldbez not required. Still a good demonstration of how to get through it. But we are now down to exactly the Fame Arch for our runners that we know of, because Sheila 1, I don't believe, came up with anything. That Baron Basement came up with nothing, so I believe that leaves just the Fame Arch on both runner side, well, and the Moon, of course. So not a lot of value, which may make both runners nervous, because if either one were to have grinded early and gone and blown up the Moon, boy howdy could there have been a lot of value up there.
Absolutely, and I think you're right in that both runners at this point in time have committed to clearing the blue planet up until this point in time. There's only the Fame Arch at this point. It would be interesting to see one of them just immediately go and try to blow up the Moon right now. We're at kind of mid 30 levels. Oh, I didn't even see Pankraz. It's like, yeah, I'll take a Yang for my cane. Sure, why not?
Yeah, well, that cane had exactly a wind spear all this time into the game, and that's what was found. Frankly, cane is not great long-term anyway, and a wind spear cane is honestly just atrocious. That's not going to do it. That is 1200 damage at best in the Zeromus fight. That's not going to work. So you're just simply out of that cane. Dusty gets his Gaia drum, says, nope, I'm going to reset, while Pankraz heads on down. So Pankraz is now behind a Trip to the Underground and this Baron Basement Goldbez. So what may have been about a 3-minute differential with the hook route is now down to probably about 90 seconds. So has made up a little bit of time.
Meanwhile, yeah, Pankraz opts not to do Venom strats. He just killed off the characters that he wanted killed off and is saying, I'm good with my Edge and my Rosa to be able to handle this. Let the hold gas play through, but there's not going to be any sort of cutscene. Shadow is going to be summoned and will immediately retreat here.
Yeah, I think in Pankraz's situation here, I believe regardless of who lives, because they're both relative agility 1, I think he can buffer out a Star Veil on either party member. So even if Edge gets eaten here and it goes over to Rosa's turn, I think he can still get a Veil up and buffer it out before Goldbez gets the second spell off. Or he can just win the 50-50 and not have to worry about it. So easy game, right?
Yeah, easiest boss ever. Meanwhile, Dustygriff does end up finding some Ninja Blades, so that difference between the Masamune is not as huge as it was once. I mean, Ninja Blades are certainly good. They're not quite Hanzo Steel, but they'll do in a pinch. But Dusty is going to be first one into the underground to fight off these bosses.
Yeah, and it makes sense because above all else, now with the complete lack of direction that our runners have, you have an objective here. Defeat the queen at the Town of Monsters. This is Yang, or Karate Man. So it makes absolute sense to go and do this and just take it out. I do not fault Dustygriff's reasoning here whatsoever. We see Pankraz making a trip to Troya. I wonder if this is to buy the exits he saw in a shop, and if he's going to go to the moon and maybe try to do some gold dragons or something like that. And there is 6 exits that he picks up. So that's telling me anyway that regardless of where he goes, he's tired of not having exits.
Yeah, and he's heading right over to this whale. Pankraz is going to the moon. He's going to say, now we're done with the Fey March, at least for a little bit. We're going to go to the moon. We've only gotten 1 objective done out of 7. We have the capability of doing 2 other objectives. One is defeat the queen, and the other one is conquer the vanilla Masamune altar. So when you look at just the sheer percentages, going to the moon makes sense right at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely going to have a higher yield as far as what you're going to get for key items. It also has gold dragons that are available. Now, Pankraz doesn't have weak for them, so maybe not opting there, but does, I believe, have a mute knife he purchased early on. He can go Masa mute with a cursed ring. He can get a mute spell off on warlocks, and he would be able to do some warlock grinding, and moving Rosa into that top slot with the mute knife and the Masa on edge now. That tells me that we're going to get a pit stop on floor 4 of the Lunar Subterrane here and call upon us some warlocks. And Pankraz is going to be looking to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 85,000 XP with some life glitches off of these per fight. So I think that's a pretty smart move. You want to get some of these levels before taking on the bosses down on the bottom of the moon.
Warlock grinds have always been, in my opinion, one of the more underrated grinds, just because there's 3 of them. There's weak to so many things in terms of the mute dagger, the rune axe, anything with an elven bow at this point in time. So plus, not only if you happen to find mute bells or have the mute spell ready to go, this is a fantastic and underrated grind for folks to be able to do. And I absolutely love seeing it every time it's pulled out.
Well, and there goes the classic low roll from the mute knife. Feels bad, man. But meanwhile, so here is one of the potential advantages of doing the earth checks first in the Fey March that Dusty is showing us. I will acknowledge its existence as much as I'd like to fade it. That's a twin harp. So that is another key item coming from that required objective spot number 6. Dusty also opting to take out the Dark Elf here. This is an interesting play for a couple reasons. One is there is a ton of health here, and the second form is super punchy, and frankly, this first form is rude because it's a little slow, it casts weak, it does a lot of nasty little things. The second form, though, he has Tella. Tella knows weak. That second form, which is roughly 20,000 health, is gone in a flash here. Could even cast a stop first and then weak, but Dusty is going for it with this fight. No save in between as well.
I like the gutsiness of it. I think when you're in a race, particularly in Dustygriff's spot, again, in the winner go home race, you have to make those sorts of judgment calls where it's not necessarily safe to do, but it's something you have to do in order to win.
Yeah, and I think kind of, the thing that you had talked about earlier about, what is Dusty's mindset? Does he change anything? Does he do anything different? I think this may be the slight difference that you would normally see. I know that Dusty is not a moon person. He is very much so do your earth checks and then go to the moon. He's always been team Fade Moon. But I don't know that this Dark Elf would be something he would take against a lot of folks. And if he did, I don't think he would do it with no save. I think this is where that risk reward comes in, that he's looking at this like, I have to win this. I have to pick up those seconds where I can. And we even see this with the tele being blinked up. That is going to allow him to either stop or weak this Dark Elf when it does the me change, which hopefully is soon, while Pankraz has done his Warlock grind and he is on his way to the bottom of the moon.
And you can see he's been counting the HP. He's just waiting. There's the me change, and he had Tele queued up and ready to roll with that.
Yeah. And it's very well thought out, very well planned, and it makes sense. You know, you're sitting here looking at a fight that you can take from 37,000 HP and make it 17,000. That is a whole lot more palatable. Like that's half of a fight gone in a flash. I'm fine with that. And if you hit 2 key items here, you can even potentially get to 10 a lot sooner than another opponent. If you get maybe a Pan here or a Luca key, you're able to really do some things, or pick up some Hanzo, which you may be a little sad about buying ninja swords now, or fake Hanzo, just a Murasame, but got through the fights.
I think you take it at that point in time, absolutely. I mean, in addition to being a key item up, now you know you have to go to the moon. Do you go ahead and do the Twin Harp here? I think you gotta before you go to the moon, right?
100%. So doing the Fey March is, it's your objective. If you fade that harp, you are putting the race in your opponent's hands at that point, because you're not going to touch that harp until you do the entire rest of the moon. By doing the Twin Harp here, if this yields a Pan, an Earth Crystal, a Pinktail, a package, it's potentially one less check you have to do on the moon. And moon checks generally take a fairly long time when you don't have power overwhelming. Probably about as long as this Twin Harp check, and they're less likely to have a key item. So this is a situation where I absolutely agree with the routing here from Dusty. And meanwhile, Pankraz has found an Asura, which Mute Knife Masamune Edge is introducing Asura to a case of the Mondays. This is 42,000 HP that's going to be gone relatively quickly.
Looks like we're even zerking up our Yang, who we blinked and all of a sudden has 2,000 HP, by the way.
That's Yang. But there is a Asura down already for Pankraz. Again, the power of the Mute Knife, that is one of those items that in this tournament has been absolutely incredible for runners. We see a spoon and an adamant armor, so that's a good news, bad news. You are over the moon to find that adamant before your opponent. It's going to make everything else you do faster than someone who did it first. The other thing is that spoon now gives you a face check dart. That is like 8,000 damage that Edge can just throw out and then get zerked up.
In the meantime, I know, this goes against, the trashy religion that is the possum, but we have DJ Spoony B about to spit out some fat beats here.
I'll let it pass this time.
Well, that was nice and quick. And Luca Key on Dustygriff's side and package a required item located over on Pankraz's side at the Masamune altar.
This gets very interesting now with the Luca key coming from that twin harp. And not to focus too much on Dusty alone here, but his decision to stick it out in the Fey March and chase this, if this Luca key gives nothing, Dusty's in a really bad way. If this Luca key gives an objective, which at this point is Pan Earth Crystal, or Pinktail, Dusty's in good shape here because he can most likely get away with fading something on the moon. But if Luca is a zonk here, this is this is trouble. So I hope for Dusty's sake that there is value here. But we do see Ruby on the moon after Pankraz picked up that package from the Ogopogo spot. Mom Bomb at Ogopogo, by the way, which is kind of rude and gross. So we'll see if this Ruby has any value.
You alluded to it earlier when you were talking about, absolutely doing the twin harp before you go up to the moon. But this is just that multiplied and squared over at this point in time. It's fantastic news to continue going through here because yes, you can skip something on the moon, but oh my god, it would feel so bad if this is nothing. This is the stressful part of the race for Dusty because I think he knows it at this point in time. This has to be something to lead to an objective. Otherwise, he knows he's probably made a mistake at this point.
Yeah, it's something that, and you allude to it being a mistake. It's one of those things where on a race-by-race basis, it feels right at the time, and it's a completely defensible play. It makes perfect logical sense, regardless of the outcome of this for Dusty. This play makes a ton of sense. Rando can rando, though, and sometimes it can really do a number on you. The Magma Key is good news for Dusty, as that is a terminal key item that does not yield value. So every time Pankraz comes up empty on the moon, it is a boon for Dusty and increases the likelihood that something like the Earth Crystal is behind this chain, and that is what Dusty needed.
Ooh, boy. Okay. We have ourselves a race, folks. I mean, I know you didn't necessarily tune in to xPankraz versus Dustygriff thinking, yes, there's going to be a blowout. You wanted a close race, right? You got it.
Yeah, this is great. This is what we wanted to see from a viewer perspective. This also puts Dusty at 9 key items. So he is going to, when he gets to the moon, most likely have 10. Based on what we've seen so far, there's a Pan, a Pinktail, and a Sand Ruby floating out there still. We only have, 4 spots left? The Earth Crystal and 3 Lunar spots to check right now? That Earth Crystal mathematically should have a key item at this point. Also, hello Antlion, in its natural habitat at the Crystal Sword Altar. It's something like a 16% chance for Antlion to be on the moon based on the numbers. Those numbers are lying. I'm just calling a spade on this.
Are you trying to imply that the Antlion frequently appears here or something in a very punchy location?
The Antlion exists to punch and finds the punchiest places to do it. Even the counter that you might think is magical based is not. It's a physical attack counter. It just makes no sense. Antlion just wants to hit things kind of like Rydia with a dragon whip and a heroine robe. It's just Antlion doing Antlion things on the moon. But Pankraz is through, decided that face check dart was going to go into Antlion's mouth in between the googly eyes there. And Pankraz gets a pan, so we know that the Crystal Sword Altar, the Masamune Altar, and this long chain behind the Twin Harp are all required. I don't know who this benefits, but I think we're looking pretty sternly at like a 27 or 28 out of 28 here.
It's hard to imagine a situation where both runners aren't doing almost everything that's required at this point in time. Um, that required item in the Crystal Sword altar, in a very kind of out of the way location, certainly means that Dustygriff, best case scenario, Dustygriff is able to skip all of 2 relatively quick checks on the moon, being the Murasame altar and then Cave Bahamut. But we don't know yet because Pankraz might still find value here.
Yeah, and interestingly enough here, we're getting a treasury check from Dustygriff. This is a very late treasury check. I am quite surprised for T Pro. I think he's really hunting like a defense sword for Kane. Maybe a Gungnir spear. There's a Gungnir spear. Okay, that's
with the Gungnir.
and an Ice Brand, which will help on the moon, oddly enough, and a second Gungnir spear. So he got what he wanted. I think that was what he was looking for. I have to imagine.
Couple of sorcerer robes. I know his Tella and Rosa could absolutely use some better gear for them at that point in time. A protect ring. Overall, kind of a nice, I would call that a solid 6 out of 10. Even for this flag set, I'll call it an 8 out of 10 at this point in time. You're not going to get your adamant armors or Excaliburs here, but for the party that we have, absolutely that benefited Dustygriff to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a situation where he wanted exactly that, a Kane weapon. And speaking of Kane weapons, there's that defense sword from the Murasame altar. So we know that the Murasame altar is blank. Now, if the top 2 spots here are blank, and let's say the pink tail is behind, or let's say a sand ruby is a value cave and a pink tail is behind this earth crystal, and Dustygriff goes bottom up on the moon, that means he can fade at least 2 spots that Pankraz is unlikely to fade. So the ball is, I think, in Dusty's court if this cave value comes up empty. If there's value here, I think it's in Pankraz's court, but ever so slightly. Just because of how the key items would then be distributed on the moon in very awkward locations. So this is going to be very, very close, regardless. Oh, hi.
We didn't necessarily want to see you here, but we'll take it.
Yeah, that is Wyvern at Value Cave. Pankraz is able to buffer out not 1, not 2 Star Veils, but also a wall, which is just frankly absurd to be that precise with the run buffering and get that to work. I'm astonished at seeing that. I don't know if everyone else understands how difficult that is to do with what y'all just saw Pankraz do, but that is absolutely phenomenal.
Meanwhile, we do see Dustygriff, who blink and you miss it. Elements fight. Duplicate Rosa found in Tower of Zot. I think we're done changing characters, though. I just have a hunch.
Yeah, I think the characters are pretty firm on both sides at this point. I don't think we'll see too much deviation. Maybe we'll see a Yang get thrown away on Pankraz aside for an anchor, but at this point he also may just simply say, I'll rock 28 agility or the closest I can get to it. He's not afraid of, relative agility 2, 3, and 4 Zeromus fights.
His Palom even took a reflected nuke there like a champ.
His Yang tried. And died.
Nice attempt there. Meanwhile, CPU fight on Dustygriff's side. Pankraz shows us that it is Protect Ring and immediate reset out. So the final 2 spots, nothing on the moon.
Yeah, and that points Pankraz fairly firmly towards a 28 out of 28. It means, I believe, that this has to be the pan? No, excuse me, the pan's already been seen. It's on the moon. I'm silly.
Yeah, pan is on the moon. So I think at this point, that's the first thing you do is turn in the pan, because the other things you got you burn your mist village, which we got the package, and then the other item that we got that was up on the moon, was that it? Was that honestly it?
We got the package and the magma key and the pan.
Okay, yeah. So it's we conquered the vanilla Masamune altar, so we got one objective and then one key item location. But other than that, the moon was primarily haunted. So this pan has to yield something for Pankraz, otherwise might be in the same position as Dustygriff, in that, I mean, Dustygriff will be able to abandon just about everything at this point in time.
Yeah, we'll be in no mode very soon, and in fact, there's a sand root, which means the pan has to lead to the pink tail. So that's going to end up in a situation where, yeah, there's the pink tail from Pankraz. So that means that there's nothing for... No, excuse me, the legend sword is from Sheila 2, right? That's the only check remaining, if I'm not mistaken, that we don't know about at this point.
Has to be it. Absolutely, you're right.
Yeah. So if these two runners were doing a 2v2 race, they would have conquered everything in the entire world under 80 minutes. But yeah, in this case, Dusty, I think, going to be taking a trip for extra Bacchus down here, while Pankraz is getting his not first but second adamant armor, completing objective 7, and he is now with objectives 1, 3, and 7, while Dusty has 1, 5, and 6. Pankraz probably going to be hitting, I would imagine, the Fey March at this point after the pan turn-ins, and then have to embark on that chain, while Dusty is going to have to go up to the moon and start clearing there. If he goes top down, he's in trouble. If he goes bottom up, I think he's in a good position, but this is still going to be incredibly close.
What's going to be interesting is when Dusty gets the pan, because that pan is, as I recall, still fairly late. Like, I want to say that's... What was that? Crystal's sword altar?
Yes.
So if he save scums that pan to immediately turn it in, as opposed to making the other two checks, I think that's going to be the deciding choice right now for Dusty, from my perspective, just depending on if he does the bottom up or top down, no matter where he does it. If as soon as he gets that pan, if he saves scums to go down and check, that's the deciding factor, I think.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that it's actually, in that case, not even a save scum, because it's an objective. So, you would go complete that, turn it into Yang's wife, and then just fly back up to the moon. So I think Dusty is done after the bottom 4 spots on the moon, which means he's going to get to fade 2 extra checks that Pankraz is not, because it's highly likely that Pankraz is going to clear out both halves of the Fey March down here, which means he is inevitably looking at a 28 out of 28, while Dusty is looking at a 26 out of 28. Now, the big difference is Pankraz has not 1 but 2 adamant armors, and he is going to absolutely make mincemeat of what's in this Fey March. So he's going to just blow through these bosses, where Dusty was not able to. It took him a bit of time. And I do want to make sure we, while we have some runner overlap doing things that they have already done, that we get a shout out here for again, our runners who are both absolutely extraordinary. Dustygriff and Pankraz, again, probably the best to ever do it tournament results wise in Dusty, and then probably the best currently in Pankraz, but both runners showing exactly how dang good they are at this game. And then also making sure Esco, behind the scenes, gets your love. Judge Joe pressing all the buttons, making sure that they are kept safe from a certain marsupial in the commentary booth. And Vitasia, of course, you for keeping me in line while we're doing this commentary for this wonderful match.
Oh, it's always my pleasure to work with a certain marsupial. Also, that certain marsupial as well. Make sure to give him a follow here as well. Just a fantastic crew that we've had here for a fantastic race, and it's going to come down to the finish line here, folks.
There's a major concern here on Dusty's side. Now, I thought at some point he had found a mute dagger. Uh, Not seeing a mute dagger in his inventory, which means I think we might be looking at Archer Rosa here. This fight is going to take a hot second for Dusty. So this is going to maybe push things back in Pankraz's advantage, just simply based on how long this fight is going to take. Because that's 2,400 damage to a 40,000 HP spot, where Pankraz was doing 6,000 to 9,000 with his edge.
That mute dagger, I tell you what, is a lot like Thor Rages. If you see it in a shop, just buy it. If you have the money, buy a stack of 10 Thor Rages, buy an extra mute dagger. You may not need it. You may waste 5 seconds in finding the money to get it. But the amount of time it saves you when you need it is astronomical. And this particular fight for this Asura absolutely shows a highlighted example.
Yeah, this is a very scary situation now. It's where you're losing basically 3 times the amount of the fight length that your opponent took. And at 42,000 HP total, this fight is going to take Dusty minutes instead of what took Pankraz a minute. So that is not great, but at the same time, Palom, I don't believe, had a weak on Pankraz's side. So he just had to burn through, but, again, adamant armor's an edge. Boom, boom, and goodbye.
And Pankraz gets through. He's already done with both of those fights. So now it's following this Twin Harp chain. Twin Harp will lead to Luca Key, will lead to Earth Crystal. And so at this point, Pankraz is on a very linear path. There's no decisions that have to be made from this point forward. It's just go as fast as you can. And there's nothing to challenge him between now and then. He's got the levels. He's got the tools. He's got the talent.
Very well said, Vitasia. He definitely has all of those things and then some. And he is also going to give us a nice rendition of this music. And Dustygriff getting a little trolled here by this Rosa, who has decided that she's going to start rolling 1,200 and 1,700 damage. Yikes.
Well, and this is the location that we know has the spoon and the adamant. So what would be worse is if he's spending all this time and then isn't going to even... It's not even technically required, I think, for this particular location, but you hate to see him reset out because there's an adamant armor that's still really nice to have.
Yeah, I mean, that adamant armor is going to be a consolation prize. It's absolutely not the consolation prize that, Dustygriff wants at this point, but it's the consolation prize he's going to get. The dart will make that Antlion easier or make his Aromas easier, but, it also is a little bit of a grind. It's 200,000 XP he won't otherwise have. But we are about to get to the point where we are checking out this Dark Elf on Pankraz's side, but does not have any kamikazes or coffins left, nor would he be able to coffin an adamant wearer. So that is going to be all she wrote for that team, and going to have to wait out everything here, while Dustygriff's still doing battle against this Asura, but is now now has Tella on the ground, but is able to get the old man back up. So one day this fight will end, but while that happens, we're going to get a little bit more music.
Well, that was pretty efficient, all told.
Yeah, not too bad at all. While Dustygriff going to battle with this here Ruby, and Ruby deciding Rosa, doesn't need to take a nap. She's got to have a Protect Ring on for that to happen, while Pankraz picks up his Luca key. So Pankraz now realizes that he has the unavoidable situation where he has to do everything and get every item, because he simply can't get away from doing Zot, or doing Luca into Zot, seeing the Sand Ruby, going and burning the village with the package, while Dusty, we know now, is just 2 checks away. So we have the Luca Cave and the Earth Crystal check versus the Masamune altar and the Crystal Sword altar. Dusty will still have to turn in the Pan and the Pinktail after that, as well as the package, while Pankraz will just have the package after those 2 checks. I think Dusty is ever so slightly ahead if he leaves the moon after the Pan, but Pankraz, as long as his Palom gets to nuke, will have a faster fight. I'm very curious to see if either runner grinds after they are done clearing everything, because their levels, while they are good, and while they will have 2 adamants, they're not perfect, and it's just enough potential for some unfortunate things to happen.
Hey, Possum.
Yeah. Don't say it. Scala will bop you.
I'm glad you read my mind so perfectly, because yeah, there's a naughty word here in the free enterprise community that starts with the letter T, and it's feeling like this might be a possibility right now.
I would also just like to page Demarine. We got doors. Demi, where are you? You don't see doors very often, but this is a way for Pankraz to very quickly pick up 62,000 XP while Dusty is picking up that package from the Masamune altar. This is Pankraz's way of knowing that he needs nuke on that kid, or needs some levels to make this a safe Zeromus fight, or maybe just knows this is a way to make it a quicker Zeromus fight. So opting to go with the doors because they're what's here, they're what's on the way, and likely going to get close to, if not at, nuke by the end of this. Now has white on Rosa, Medio on the kid, so probably needs 2 more doors to get to nuke in order to get the kid fully online. May opt for just 1 more and then pick up nuke by virtue of this fight in the sealed cave and the fights at the Earth Crystal. So we'll see if he wants the 1 or the 2 more doors at this point. And let's see if Dustygriff also decides to embed a quad 9 spoon in between Antlion's googly eyes. That took not a lot of time at all.
It's like, nope, we're going this way. And interesting to note, Pankraz says, no, let's not do any more doors. Planning on letting the experience from the final fight kind of boost him the rest of the way, from the sound of it.
Yeah, you get 46,000 from Luca, you get 18,000 from the first spot in Zot, and you get another 13 or 14,000 with 10 key items from the last spot in Zot. So that gives you a grand total of, 96,000? Which is enough to get the kid the rest of the way there. So pretty heads up by Pankraz not needing the nuke for this fight, most likely. Also knowing Wyvern's gone, Goldbez is gone, nothing scares him, he doesn't have to save. So he's just going to head on through here. While I think on Dustygriff's side, he may get this pan, and this is the moment of truth, because we know that this pan leads to all the rest of the value. Does Dusty clear more of the moon, or is Dusty out of here? If he clears more of the moon, advantage swings back to Pankraz. If he doesn't, then Pankraz still has to do this entire Zot check. He's going to have a faster Zeromus fight, but he's going to be in the fight behind.
He is out.
Yeah,
He's
I
rolling.
like
He's not
this.
even safety saving. Ooh, Dusty.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's an objective. He has the package. The pan is 2 checks and an objective to get the pink tail. And statistically, one of those checks is a K main check and the other is a K summon. So those are going to give you better weights on average than you're going to get out of 1 moon and 1 summon spot. So the logic makes sense. The time of the race makes sense. It's an objective. It all makes very logical sense from Dusty's side. So absolutely like the play. And we know it's the right one. So that makes it even better.
We do know it's the right one. And there was no safety save either on the moon. He's like, I'm committing to this play. And he's going to be rewarded almost instantly with it. Won't even necessarily have to make the Sheila 2 turn in.
Well, he does because that's the
He
objective.
does. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he does. So, oops. Sorry.
No worries. There's so much going on here. Like, this is so close. Again, I think Dusty is ahead, but I don't think it's by an insurmountable amount. But boy, is it going to be close.
I mean, at this point, it might even come down to party composition. You have, a nice anchor in Tella with Rosa, with Edge at this point in time, who has a Ninja and a Murasame, as well as a Kane who has a Gungnir. So it's not horrible at that point. But then you have, on Pankraz's side, you have a Palom with a Yang and an Edge, with your same Rosa. As we see, Fusoya is the one burning down the Village Mist because those Lunarians are so cruel.
Yeah, this is a little interesting routing-wise on Pankraz's side. I thought maybe we would have seen the Earth Crystal first, and then it land him in Baron, and he just kind of goes up and does the Village Mist, but I don't know what's faster or not, and if anything, it would be seconds difference, which in this match could matter, but I do wonder. I have to go time that at some point. But that's neither here nor there. We have Dustygriff, who's about to turn in this pan. We have Pankraz, who just completed burning down the Village Mist. So Dusty is going to have, a 60 to 90 second cutscene in the pan, whereas Pankraz has a 3-minute, probably, Tower of Zot to do. The thing is, though, Dusty's fight, he's looking at a very strong Edge, a Kane that exists, and that's all I'm going to give him, and a Rosa. Does he get a little cheeky and try to splash some whites in there and get some extra reflect damage, but risk potential wiping? Or does he just do it straight up on Zerkers, whereas Pankraz has a lot more options and a lot more potential DPS?
I think if it's Dusty, you kind of trust him to make that particular decision. I think you might splash a white or two if you think you can, but otherwise, once you're in the fight, don't necessarily stress about it. Make sure your anchor's set up well, and you have 2 melee who may not be doing as much damage as you like, but go to town at that point in time and then let it fly. I'm a little worried about Dusty's Rosa in terms of a second Big Bang, because I don't think he has the DPS output to avoid a second Big Bang, and that can get nasty with a high roll. Yeah, under 2,000 or right around 2,000 health. High roll Big Bang for that second one. Taking out Rosa might be cutting it close, but I think otherwise he's set up very well.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see, because anytime you nerf as well, you run a little bit of a risk of the wrong targets getting hit, and it's a little bit scary. We also see Pankraz here using a Cure 4 offensively on elements, and that is going to one-shot elements, hello and goodbye. So Pankraz now but a Tower of Zot second fight behind, does still have the animation from Zot, does still have the crystal get, but chat is a little bit delayed here. They're not doing their normal things, Vitasia. And I love the way that you phrase this. I'm finally seeing them come out in chat, but we have some Z flags coming out. Why do we have those?
You know, Pasta Morpheus, I'm so glad you asked that. So, we here in the Final Fantasy IV free enterprise community love to randomize our things. We randomize our characters, we randomize our treasure chests, we try to randomize all the bosses, except for Zeromus. Zeromus does not like to be randomized, in part because of how the boss is laid out, and big bangs in the Antlion cave won't necessarily be a very good thing. So, Zeromus has to stay locked in his particular location, but how do we randomize him? We randomize him when he shows his true colors. You cast that crystal, and then one of more than 500 different potential forms reveal themselves. So the question in chat becomes, and I'm sorry, I've been under the weather, so let me. I wanna make sure I do this right here. Whose butt are we gonna kick tonight?
Excellent. I love it every time. It's so good.
And of course, there's the ancillary questions of is the butt cute? Is there a butt at all? Things of that nature.
Does it have a hat? Is the new one?
Yeah, I've seen that around as well, and I'm like, I'm not. Where did that come from?
But we have the final form being revealed. We have a crystal thrown by Rosa. We have a Bacchus thrown by Edge. We have this is Jevilmus.
This feels like an Undertale thing that I'm not qualified to talk about.
We have a nuke on Edge. This should not kill him. No, not even close, thankfully. So let's take a look at damage values here. Kain not quite hitting 2,000. Edge hitting a fair amount more. Pankraz has his crystal, is approaching the Z fight. We have Edge doing 35 to 4,500, Kain doing 18 to 25. This is probably going to skip the second Big Bang before the refill, but it's probably not going to skip the second Big Bang overall. Dusty not menuing here is a little bit spooky for me. Okay, there's the Cure 4. That was getting... that was getting nervous. I don't think Pankraz has saved since like 15 minutes ago by my count as well. And I think chat's also. So this is all or nothing for Pankraz here. I don't expect he would wipe, but yeah, that's the situation our runners find themselves in. They know where they're at, and they know how dangerous this is, and they know how close they are to each other. But Dusty is up a full Big Bang, and is just chugging away with those Zerkers, dealing 6,000 to 7,000 damage per round. Barring disaster, I think Dusty's going to pull this one out.
It would take an extremely high roll on Dusty's side for him to miss this one. I think he's already in the last or in the third phase, because I think that was the second shake that we saw. So it would take a pretty high Big Bang here, but then he's almost certainly close to Meteor phase. Here's this Big Bang. This is truth or dare, do or die time here.
Good rolls on everyone. Even if there is a Meteor immediately, there's a Cure 4 coming out before it can hit. So I think Dusty's got this one. Very well managed, very well dodged on that second Big Bang roll as well by everybody. So we'll see if there's a black hole. I expect there will be one, and there is one right now. So we'll need to get people reserved. Doesn't have any darks left for Edge, but I think does have Bacchus wines still in the tank. So probably going to see Meteor very soon too. There is that Meteor. Hits nobody. Well done to the team. And I think Dusty is just going to squeak this one out. And we are going to get a Game 3, y'all.
Oh, I'm so excited for Game 3. Oh goodness, and there's the shakes and the flashes and the booms and the bangs and GG's Dustygriff with an official time of 1:43:42, pulling out the win.
What a race.
GG's. And just a fantastic race. Pankraz right on his heels, I'm sure, in the zero miss fight on his own. But let's see if Dusty's willing to chat with us.
Yeah, I certainly hope he is, and we'll see if we can get him in for an interview shortly. Just make sure and go check that there haven't been any pings that we've missed, and I don't see anything, so hopefully we'll get him in shortly. But in the meantime, we do have this Game 3 coming up, and I'm super excited for that. But there is now a dinging in our ears. I believe we're joined by the one and only Dustygriff, and the 1-0 in this particular race, Dustygriff, staying alive in the tournament. GG's to you, Dusty.
Hey, GG's.
So, I mean, we'll just cut right to the end of it. You're relying on Edge, which is fine, and Kane with a Gungnir Spear by virtue of a controversial treasury check that I think had exactly what you were looking for in it. Between that treasury check and that Zeromus fight, kind of take us through like what your thought process was, what you were looking for, how you just felt that we'll go, backwards on this. How did the end of that run feel?
Funny enough, the end of that run felt worse than the start for me, because I actually felt like I played pretty tight at the beginning and didn't fall apart towards the end. Some of my fights were pretty good. I think all my Earth clear was pretty decent and everything like that. But yeah, the moon was not super slow, but yeah, that Azura fight on the moon felt really bad, and that just felt I don't know, that pushed made me feel like I was pushed back a bit at that point. And also like so I committed to the Kane and Edge early, because I was just like, I should be able to find stuff for these guys. Kane rocking that wind spear for a solid hour, not exactly doing the work you want him to, but I mean, he was doing something. And so I did a treasury check. Yeah, it took like 40 seconds or something like that. I didn't want to do it at that point, but at the same time, I was like, for Zeramis and everything else after this point, if I could just get a Gungnir or whatever, anything better than a wind spear, I'll be feeling decent. And sure enough, got that out of it. So I thought the chances were decent, considering especially, I mean, I did a decent amount of treasure checks. I found nothing for Kane. So I was like, what's the chances there's going to be nothing here for him too? So I think there was 2 Gungnir spears in there, which is hilarious. But yeah, so I overall felt decent. Up to some of that clear of the moon, like I said, I don't think I made any huge egregious errors in that one. I think the one big error I made, and this was what I was kind of scared of, and I think maybe I'm lucky that it didn't happen. I'm not really sure how it would have played out had it happened, but I didn't do a D machine early, and I was kind of thinking Pankraz might cash in on that, so yeah, I just didn't want to. I was just like, I don't feel like doing a D machine here. I was like, I think it's objectively the better play, but I was like, I feel strong enough to just go through this with the party that I have. I actually had, middle swords on Edge, which isn't great, but it's enough to get through. And I did see, like early on, I was like, if either I go through Hook now, as I am, or I go and do D machine right now. And the way I saw it was I knew the second fight was free and we had Coffin, so that was going to be so fast. I was actually going to I got decent influx of experience out of it, equivalent to a Siren or whatever. So that made it feel kind of nice at that point. And I felt like I played that decent thing. Routing the Underworld felt nice after that as well, with the tower and the Dwarf and everything else. But then it kind of slowed down after that, because I really needed some power out of that Edge. So got lucky with the ninja swords from Tamra, and then things kind of fell into place.
Yeah.
All right, so you're doing the bottom up moon. You get the package, then you get the pan there at the Crystal Sword altar. So you just have the Murasame altar and then Cave Bahamut. Cave Value, as the meme goes. Don't save at all. Just immediately go back to Earth. How nervous were you that the pink tail was still going to be on the moon somewhere?
Especially considering my last race against Pankraz, where it was at Murasame altar, and that was the exact last spot that I did 28 out of 28 that seed. We both did, and that was our last check. I was like, am I getting deja vu here? Should I just stay up here and clear it out? But there was 4 checks, including the 2 pan checks that left at that point. I only needed pink tail, so I had a 50-50 chance basically that I was going to get it by leaving. And the thing is, if it's not a moon and you clear it out, that is so much more time than going the turn in the pan and see that it's not from there and just go back up to moon anyways and clear. So I just figured it was just the safer overall play, especially where pan turn-in was an objective. If pan turn-in wasn't an objective and I had some other objective or something like that, maybe I'd feel different about it. But yeah, that felt like the play to make there. If pan turn-in wasn't an objective, I would have saved and reset out of pan turn-in had it not been anything. But consider it as an objective. It's like I have to just do this now and see where it gets me.
Absolutely, and I'm sure you're going to watch this back, but a lot of kind of what you have gone over in this interview, a lot of the stuff that we highlighted as well about kind of the decisions to make throughout the seed, the routing trees, and things like that. I will say, to highlight your point of how you felt about your early game, you were 3 minutes up getting underground. You got that edge significantly earlier, and FF4FE sat through the gauntlet to get that Palom, and that ultimately, gave you quite a bit of extra oomph in the early game. It slowed you down a little in the mid game comparatively, but it was an incredibly tense match to watch, and I'm sure to run in as well with how darn good both of y'all are. But just to kind of give some credence to that thought that you had, your early game was absolutely phenomenal.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. I was hoping that it's funny because I did see that Palom there and I stopped for a second. And especially once I got, the whole party set up with Tella and everything, it's kind of like, do I do this? Do I go back and get that Palom and T-machine this and kind of just like slug through the seed at this point? But like I said, I just felt like the seed was, you kind of feel like sometimes seeds are directing you in a way, and it was like hook route was free. We had an Edge and a Kane and a Rosa, a Tella, like one of the best parties you could ask for in terms of just like standardly getting through things as long as you get the gear for it. So it just felt like just go with it and go with my gut, and my gut was just take the party I was given and try to make it the fastest I could without sitting through a 20-minute team machine grind.
Definitely. And I just have one last question for you. It's the age-old, eternal question of Team Never Moon versus Team Never Feymarch. You opted to go Feymarch today. There was a Moon objective, there was a Feymarch objective. Your opponent went to the Moon, you went to the Feymarch and followed that chain. As you're progressing through that chain, which makes sense to do after you've done the Feymarch, how nervous were you getting as it kept showing you things like the Twin Harp and the Luca key? And you're like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And then finally, did you have that oh yes moment?
Yeah. Getting Za out of that felt quite good, and yeah, I did. It was rough at that point because it's like, yeah, I did Twin Harp. I felt like FF4FE would also do Twin Harp, so I didn't feel too bad about it, but it was also yeah, didn't feel great. And I was talking to FF4FE after the seed and also said, I was this close, super close to just piecing out at that point and not doing Feymarch, even though Feymarch is my preferred play overall typically before going to Moon. But where I had nothing really for Edge, nothing great, I was like, I just want to go to the Moon and get my levels because I was hoping that there'd be enough experience up there. But yeah, it once I saw that Ninja Sword and Tamra, it just like, again, the seed, it's almost like you just feel like the seed is telling you got to go with your gut, that you got the power now, and those fights aren't going to be too long in Feymarch anymore, and then an objective is right there sitting for you. So I was like, I just have to clear this out, try and get my 10 key items, and get up to Moon, and then figure it out from there.
Absolutely. Vitasia, any questions for Dusty? I apologize for hogging the mic.
No, I guess here's my only question. So 1-1, when's the rubber match? Everyone, this has been a match that a lot of folks have been saying has the quality that could be a finals matchup, and now we get to see a match 3. Any idea when it's going to be, so we can start hinting and promoting it?
It'll be Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, I believe. We have it slated for. unless something changes. But yeah, so I'm excited. This is the third time me and Pankraz have matched up in a tournament. Last time was in the LHL finals, I believe, and then previous to that was ZZ3 in the semis, I think. And yeah, it's always a pleasure. Pankraz, everyone knows Pankraz is an amazing runner, and I love watching him run. So it's just a pleasure to race against them and get to try and put on a show for people. So looking forward to see what happens with our ongoing Best of Infinite Game series throughout tournaments throughout time on Saturday.
If y'all just want to keep racing, we can make this a best of 37. I'm down. What do you think, Vitasia?
I think the community would be down for that too. I mean, I'm up for talking about it. It certainly beats doing anything else on a Friday night. So,
but Dusty, any final thoughts on the seed? Any final thoughts on the tournament so far? I know obviously there's a game 3 going on, but we want to let you have the rest of your night to relish this well-deserved victory and not hold you up too much longer.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate both of you commentating and y'all restreaming, tracking all the good stuff. I'm having a ton of fun in this one. This flex set has been super challenging, honestly, but really fun to play. And I think some of the races have shown off such good high-level play that yeah, it's just been super exciting to be part of. So looking forward to Saturday. GG's to Pankraz again, and we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dusty. Again, always a pleasure to get to watch you race and do your thing, and we look forward to seeing game 3 for sure.
Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
All right, and we are now joined as well by xPankraz, second place this evening, but still number 1 in our hearts. GG's to you this evening, Pankraz.
Hey, GG's. Thank you very much. And GG's to Dusty, of course.
So, one of the things I wanted to ask about early on, you had found a curse ring in Eblim, and you had early moon access, and you're up on the moon trying to get some XP on Quake Kid. You're going through, you find 2 reaction fights, but they're both back attacks. They're not cooperating whatsoever. And you end up deciding just, no, I'm good. I'm not going to worry about this. That early game decision, first of all, to take Palom through the gauntlet, and then kind of what was happening with the reaction grind fights. What was your mindset at that point? Like, did you think you were behind? Were you, how were you feeling in general?
Oh, definitely. I guess we'll start with the curse ring pickup in Eblim. I thought, hey, well, up to that point, the loot hadn't been spectacular, and I said something to that effect. And I said, but this curse ring, that is pretty spectacular. Maybe we can do something with it. And then seeing Palom on hubs with the gauntlet there, I knew I could do a reaction grind with that. I had the Darkness Crystal starter, I had the Curse Ring, he'd learned Lit 1, he starts with Lit 1, everything lined up for it. I just have to get this Palom. And as I'm sitting through the gauntlet, I'm thinking, is this worth it? I don't know, it's gonna be tricky, but Palom's pretty good, we get Quake, and early Virus is also pretty nice, a whole bunch of things. And then actually going for the reaction grind and having it fail miserably, for lack of better terminology, wasn't great at all. I went up to the moon right around 10-11 minutes, and I stayed up there until about the 15-minute mark, diddling away 2-3 minutes on that. Did not feel great at all. Getting the fight, not having it work out, not getting the fight, but having it be a normal attack on repeat. I knew that either I had to continue to commit to this for however long it would be, in which case I'm losing more time than I would have gained if I got it early, or I just have to leave and take this edge and try something a little bit more aggressive, like fading Fabul until I can't. And leaning on the Mute Knife Full Moon that I had picked up at that point. But those couple minutes continued to weigh on me throughout the entire seed, basically. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm looking at my timer at the 109 mark or whatever. I'm like, okay, this should be where I am around the 106. What am I doing? Where am I going? Yada yada. What can I do to try and lower this a little bit? because I had given up 2 to 3 free minutes against Dustygriff, and that's not something that you can do.
Well, absolutely appreciate the insight there. Going forward, we're going to jump ahead quite a bit here. I guess something I was very intrigued by, but also it was honestly pretty dang genius. Doors.
Oh yeah, the doors I was happy with. I knew at that point, like, Rosa had wall, and I needed just a little bit of XP on Palom. He was level 48. Like, I sat through the gauntlet for this kid. Let's get him to nuke. And with Yong's damage as well, he could use the extra levels. I figured a little bit of XP wouldn't hurt. I'm either going to have to go buy more sirens, because I only have 2 of them, and that's not getting me there. The bosses I have left aren't getting me there. So, Luca Key, or once I got the Luca Key from the Twin Harp, I knew how the key items laid out for the rest of the season, that I had to do everything. So I figured I'd do a few doors on the way down, get that last little bit. I was hoping that he'd get it off of the Evil Wall fight, but needed just a little bit more to get there. But yeah, it figured it was appropriate to try and get that last bit of XP that I needed without having to go buy more sirens, do those sirens, and not be able to one-shot those sirens when I have a perfectly good cursed wall casting setup for it.
Definitely makes sense. And then the last question I have is just the moon. You went up there, you did a couple warlocks, went through all those fights. On the way back down from the moon, you clear out the bottom and you commit to the full Murasame and Cave Bahamut checks. Was there ever a thought about taking that pigtail that you had acquired and taking that pan and dipping on the moon and just kind of doing all the underground stuff, or were you hard committed to the moon at that point?
With package and pan in hand, it was awkward. As I was fighting the Antlion, I basically rationalized that I'm going to stay up here and full clear this moon. With the amount of Zonk key items that I found back on Earth, the double Dragoon armors, the Samurai bow, etc., there was enough stuff still out there that I figured I could find something, that there might be something else up here. There's got to be some key item check anywhere here. There's no guarantee that everything is a chain. It could be, it's a summon spot versus moon spots outside of the pan turn-in. I just wanted to stay up there and continue to full clear it. Not leave it behind, try to be thorough, try to be efficient in what I was doing, and try to find the Earth Crystal. And I did not find the Earth Crystal for a good while.
Makes sense. Appreciate all the insight as always. Vitasia, any questions for Pankraz?
I think you literally asked every little detail that I was going to ask, but that's fantastic.
Oh, my apologies on that.
It happens.
So,
No,
hey, great minds and all that. You know?
It was. I do want to say it was just a fantastic race, watching just 2 titans of the community going at one another for this one, and it was. I hope you enjoy watching this one back as well.
Oh yeah, I am certain it's going to be a great watch back. It is always a blast racing with Dusty, and I'm glad that we put on a show for everybody, even if I had a couple bumps in the road. But very happy with my play in this one. Outside of those first 15 minutes and then forgetting to re-equip my curse ring after Dwarf Castle, my last save was before the Murasame altar fight. I played the last 35-40 minutes of that seed without saving once, and that's pretty good. I can't be upset with a lot of it. I think some of that was among my best play, just mechanically and technical wise, even if it didn't ultimately amount to a win. So can't be upset. Can't ever be upset with a loss to Dustygriff. Big GG's, and looking forward to Game 3 tomorrow night. And of course, looking forward to the watchback on this one. Thank you so much, Vitasia and Possum, for the commentary. Thank you, Judge Joe, for the tracking. Thank you, Esco, for rolling the seed and putting on the show. Hopefully, it was a good show.
From our perspective, it was amazing.
Well, hey, I'm glad that you all enjoyed it. And I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your evenings. We will catch you around tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock Eastern. Till then, take care. Have a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Pankraz, and huge GGs to you on a race well run.
Thank you.
And with that, I think that kind of wraps up where we're going this evening, at least here. But, you should absolutely stay tuned. There's more free enterprise for your Friday evening. We're doing our best to stretch things out right now so that we can send everyone over directly to Free Enterprise 2, where there is going to be a fantastic race between Woobear and Zyrak. I lost their names there for a second. Woobear, of course, been on an absolute tear, going perfect in his group matches, and then just continuing to his run through the bracket stages. Zyrak, came out of this little Aegis Shield group that, he beat me. So go Woobear. But I'm not salty. I'm not salty. I don't know what you're talking about. But if you're not going to join us necessarily for the raid, we also have Gale Swift versus Simbu that's going to be at 9:30 Eastern Time, right here on the Free Enterprise Prime channel as well.
And there is one non-restreamed race this evening that we do want to let y'all know about. That is Rybon versus Lord Bob Puri, I believe. And they are going to be doing battle coming up very soon, if I'm not mistaken. So lots of great action this evening. And it does look like we are going to head over to Free Enterprise 2 for the Woobear versus Zyrak match. So we're going to head over there. But one last time, we do want to thank our runners, Pankraz and Dusty. Behind the scenes, Judge Joe pushing literally every button he could. Well done, Judge Joe. Esco, bravo. Great seed, great restream. Thank you as always. And Vitasia, co-commentator of the year. Love doing this with you, my friend. And it makes it all the better when we get races like this. Oh my goodness.
I was going to say, I love working with you on every race possible, but races like this make it so easy to work with just about anyone. But thank you, everyone, to the community. If you haven't joined us, join us over on the Discord. We'll see you at the next race. Thank you all.